The air inside the stadium was electric that night in Minneapolis, Minnesota, July 1986. A sea of bodies pressed against each other, the hum of 20,000 voices echoing against the walls, all there to witness the purple maestro himself, Prince, commanding the stage with his usual magnetic presence. Sweat glistened on foreheads under the harsh glow of stage lights, camera flashes erupting sporadically like miniature lightning storms across the darkened arena. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, a tangible energy that seemed to pulse through the crowd in waves. Prince had been performing for nearly an hour, his band tight and flawless behind him as he strutted across the stage in a ruffled white shirt and purple suit, guitar slung low as he teased out impossible notes that seemed to bend the very fabric of sound itself. No one in the audience could have possibly predicted what was about to unfold, a moment that would become crystallized in music history, spoken about in reverent whispers among fans for decades to come. The kind of convergence that happens once in a generation, if ever at all. Two titans of music, two revolutionaries, two kings sharing the same stage in an unplanned collision of stardom. The crowd had no idea they were about to witness something transcendent. Outside, the summer night air hung heavy and still, the distant sound of traffic a mere whisper compared to the controlled chaos within those four walls. Inside, people from all walks of life stood shoulder to shoulder, united by the universal language of music. Some had lined up for 12 hours to secure their spots near the front. Others had paid small fortunes for prime seats, all of them drawn to the gravitational pull of genius. As Prince finished a blistering rendition of Purple Rain, the arena fell silent for just a moment, that precious pause between songs when anticipation builds and the audience collectively holds its breath, wondering what magic would come next. Prince walked to the edge of the stage, a mischievous smile playing at the corners of his lips. He whispered something to his guitarist, who nodded with wide eyes. The drummer seemed to hesitate for just a second, exchanging glances with the bassist before a knowing smile spread across his face. Something was happening, something unscripted. "I want to try something different tonight," Prince announced, his voice carrying across the hushed arena. "Something special for Minneapolis." The crowd roared in response, hungry for whatever gift he was about to bestow upon them. "You know," Prince continued, adjusting his guitar strap with practiced nonchalance, "there's another artist I respect immensely. Someone who, like me, isn't afraid to push boundaries." A murmur rippled through the audience. Prince was known for his fierce independence, his reluctance to share praise, his competitive spirit. Who would he be talking about? "This next song," he said, stepping back toward his band, "is for the king of pop." And with that, the opening beats of Michael Jackson's Bad began to pulse through the speakers. The crowd erupted, disbelief and joy mingling in equal measure. Prince, known for his reluctance to cover other artists, especially his contemporaries, was paying homage to Michael Jackson, the other defining musical force of the decade. His fingers danced across the fretboard, transforming the pop anthem into something distinctly Prince, funkier, edgier, dripping with his unique musical vocabulary. The crowd swayed and sang along, 20,000 voices merging into one massive choir. Prince's band followed his lead flawlessly, adding flourishes and improvisations that honored the original while creating something new and electric. The security team at the far corner of the stage seemed unusually active, their walkies crackling with static and urgent whispers. A figure in black moved through the shadows behind the amplifiers, followed by several others. The audience, entranced by Prince's performance, noticed nothing of this subtle commotion in the wings. 3 songs deep into what had become an impromptu Michael Jackson tribute, Prince was in the middle of a blistering guitar solo when the unthinkable happened. A single spotlight suddenly illuminated the side of the stage, and there, impossibly, magically, stood Michael Jackson himself. He was dressed in his iconic Bad Era outfit, black leather jacket with buckles and straps, tight black pants, hair perfectly styled. The stadium froze in collective shock. 20,000 jaws dropped simultaneously. For a full 3 seconds, there was absolute silence, the kind of reverent, stunned quiet that only occurs in the presence of the truly extraordinary. Then chaos. The crowd exploded in a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. People screamed, cried, clutched at their neighbors in disbelief. Some simply stood motionless, afraid to blink lest the mirage disappear. Camera flashes intensified tenfold, a storm of light capturing what many would later swear must have been a dream. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more untold stories about the King of Pop that will take you behind the velvet rope and into the remarkable moments that defined a legend. Prince himself seemed momentarily stunned, his fingers hovering over the strings of his guitar as he turned to witness Michael's entrance. But true to his professional nature, he never missed a beat. Instead, he nodded toward Michael with a mixture of surprise and respect, then launched into an even more passionate rendition of the song. Michael moved to the center of the stage with his characteristic grace, each step deliberate yet fluid, as if he were barely touching the ground. The crowd's volume increased impossibly further, a wall of sound that felt physical in its intensity. When Michael reached the microphone, he turned to Prince and offered a slight bow, a gesture of respect from one king to another. Prince returned the gesture, and in that moment, any rumors of rivalry between the two superstars seemed to evaporate into the electrified air. The band smoothly transitioned back to the beginning of Bad, and Michael took over the vocals, his voice cutting through the noise with crystal clarity. Prince continued on guitar, adding flourishes and runs that complemented Michael's performance perfectly. It was as if they had rehearsed this moment for months, though everyone present knew this was entirely spontaneous, a cosmic alignment that no one could have orchestrated. As Michael began to dance, the crowd fell into a rhythm of alternating silence and explosive cheering. During his most intricate moves, those impossible leans, the military-precise spins, the gravity-defying glides, the audience would fall silent, collectively holding their breath. Then, as he completed each sequence, they would erupt again, a tidal wave of adoration crashing against the stage. A young girl in the front row, no more than 10 years old, stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. She had come to see Prince with her father, a lifelong fan who had saved for months to afford the tickets. Now she was witnessing not just one icon, but two, a convergence so rare and precious that her young mind could barely process it. Her father lifted her onto his shoulders, giving her an unobstructed view of history unfolding. Michael noticed her, those expressive eyes locking with hers for just a moment. In the middle of the song, without missing a step in his choreography, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and shiny, one of his trademark crystal-studded gloves. As the song reached its chorus, Michael moved to the edge of the stage and, with a gentle toss, sent the glove sailing into the girl's outstretched hands. The crowd around her gasped, dozens of hands reaching instinctively but respectfully withdrawing when they saw who the intended recipient was. The girl clutched the glove to her chest, her expression transforming from shock to pure, unadulterated joy. Her father, overcome with emotion, mouthed thank you to Michael, who acknowledged him with a nod before spinning back to center stage. For the next 30 minutes, the two legends traded songs, taking turns leading and supporting each other. Prince played while Michael sang and danced. Michael provided backup vocals while Prince delivered scorching guitar solos. They moved through portions of each other's catalogs with mutual respect and obvious enjoyment, two masters at the height of their powers playing off each other's energy. The crowd witnessed Prince attempting some of Michael's dance moves, laughing good-naturedly when he couldn't quite nail the moonwalk. Michael, in turn, strapped on a guitar at Prince's urging, managing a few chords as Prince guided his fingers along the fretboard. It was playful, genuine, human, a side of both performers rarely seen in their carefully choreographed public personas. Throughout the stadium, people who had come as casual fans found themselves transformed into lifelong devotees. Witnesses to this unrehearsed summit of musical royalty understood they were experiencing something that transcended ordinary entertainment. This was lightning captured in a bottle, a moment when the boundaries between performer and audience, between competing artists, between calculated showmanship and raw human connection, dissolved completely. Halfway through their impromptu set, during a brief instrumental break, Michael leaned toward Prince and whispered something in his ear. Prince's eyes widened, and he nodded enthusiastically. They conferred quickly with the band, using the shorthand of experienced musicians to communicate complex musical ideas in mere seconds. What happened next would become the most talked-about portion of an already legendary night. The band shifted into a medley that wove together threads from both artists' hit songs. Billie Jean, flowing seamlessly into Kiss, Beat It, merging with When Doves Cry. It was musical alchemy, a demonstration of how two seemingly different styles could not only coexist, but elevate each other. The crowd swayed as one massive organism, riding the waves of this unique musical conversation between giants. A woman in her 40s stood motionless in the 10th row, tears flowing freely down her face. She had been a fan of both artists since their earliest days, had defended each against critics, had found solace in their music during her darkest hours. Seeing them together, creating something greater than the sum of its already considerable parts, felt like a personal gift. It validated her years of devotion and transformed her relationship with their music forever. Near the back of the arena, where the cheapest seats offered distant views of tiny figures on stage, a group of teenagers who had pooled their meager savings to attend stood on their chairs, screaming themselves hoarse. For them, this was more than entertainment. It was affirmation that magic existed in the world, that transcendent moments could materialize when least expected, that life occasionally offered experiences so perfect they justified all the mundane hours in between. As the medley reached its conclusion, both Prince and Michael moved to center stage. The music softened, the lights dimmed to a single spotlight, illuminating the two icons standing shoulder to shoulder. Prince removed his guitar and handed it to a stagehand. Michael slipped off his leather jacket, revealing a simple, white shirt underneath. The transformation was subtle but significant. No longer separate performers with their trademark accessories and affectations, but two artists stripped back to their essential selves. Minneapolis. Michael addressed the crowd, his soft-spoken voice somehow carrying to every corner of the arena. I wasn't planning to be here tonight. The audience laughed, then cheered, then fell silent again, hanging on his every word. I was in town for. He paused, that characteristic shyness emerging, personal reasons. But I heard my friend was performing. He turned to Prince with genuine admiration. And sometimes, the music calls you where you need to be. Prince nodded in agreement, then added, when the king of pop shows up at your show, you'd better be ready to step up your game. The crowd roared its approval. For the final song of their collaboration, they chose Neutral Territory, a cover of Jackie Wilson's Your Love Keeps Lifting Me, Higher and Higher, a nod to one of the soul pioneers who had influenced them both. As they traded verses, their distinct voices, Michael's precise, emotive tenor and Prince's raw, more expansive range, complemented each other perfectly. When they harmonized on the chorus, the effect was transcendent, prompting several audience members to later report feeling physically lifted, as if the music had generated its own gravitational field. As the song reached its climax, both performers extended their arms toward the audience in identical gestures, a synchronized offering of connection that hadn't been planned but emerged organically from two artists operating on the same spiritual frequency. The crowd surged forward in response, 20,000 arms reaching back, creating a circuit of energy that seemed to illuminate the arena from within. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of perfect silence. No applause, no cheers, not even breath, just a collective recognition of the sacred space that had been created. Then, as if released from a spell, the stadium erupted in the kind of ovation that comes perhaps once in a performer's lifetime, regardless of their stature. It continued unabated for 7 minutes by the venue's official recording, though many present would later swear it lasted much longer. Michael and Prince embraced center stage, a genuine moment of mutual respect and perhaps even friendship that transcended their public personas and rumored rivalry. As they separated, Prince removed something from his neck, a small gold amulet on a chain, something many fans recognized as a personal talisman he often wore during performances. He pressed it into Michael's palm, closing the pop star's fingers around it with both hands. The gesture was private, not played for the audience, but captured by dozens of cameras and later described by lip readers as accompanied by the words, "Brothers in this life." Michael nodded, visibly moved. He reached into his pocket and retrieved a small red cloth, one of his armband accessories from the Bad Tour. He tied it around Prince's wrist with ceremonial deliberateness, each movement precise and meaningful. The exchange of tokens, witnessed by thousands but intimate in its execution, symbolized something profound about the nature of art and competition, about how those who reach the pinnacle of their field share a unique understanding that transcends rivalry. As Prince returned to his band and Michael prepared to exit the stage, the King of Pop turned one last time to the audience. "Thank you for sharing this with us," he said simply. "Some moments are bigger than any one person. They belong to all of us." He pointed to the young girl still perched on her father's shoulders, still clutching his crystal glove. "Keep that safe for me," he called to her. "It's a piece of tonight." With that, he disappeared into the wings as suddenly as he had appeared, leaving Prince to close out his show. The remaining hour of Prince's performance was imbued with a special energy, as if the arena had been consecrated by what had transpired. The audience, though still engaged and enthusiastic, carried a certain reverence, the kind that follows a genuine brush with the extraordinary. Many would later describe feeling changed by what they had witnessed, not just entertained, but transformed in some subtle yet significant way. Outside the venue afterward, the night air seemed different somehow. Strangers who had shared the experience spoke to each other with the easy familiarity of old friends, exchanging contact information and promises to keep in touch. Local news crews interviewed shell-shocked fans who struggled to articulate what they had seen, their words failing to capture the magic they had experienced. "You just had to be there," became the common refrain, inadequate but true. The young girl and her father were among the last to leave, walking slowly through the parking lot as if reluctant to break the spell of the evening. The glove was carefully wrapped in her father's handkerchief, tucked securely in his inside jacket pocket for safekeeping. "Dad," she said as they reached their car, her voice thoughtful beyond her years. "Do you think they planned that? Michael showing up like that?" Her father considered the question as he unlocked the doors. "No, sweetheart. I think that was real magic. The kind that doesn't happen if you try to make it happen." She nodded, satisfied with his answer, understanding intuitively what he meant. "I'm never washing this hand again," she declared solemnly, holding up the hand that had caught the glove. Her father laughed. "We'll see about that, but we'll definitely find a special place for Michael's glove." 20 years later, that same girl, now a music producer in Los Angeles, would keep that glove displayed in a simple glass case in her studio. Not as a piece of memorabilia or a status symbol, but as a tangible reminder of the night she learned what music at its most powerful could do. Bring people together, transcend ego, create moments of collective joy so intense they imprinted themselves permanently on the soul. She would tell the story to artists she worked with, not to name drop or impress, but to remind them of music's highest purpose. And occasionally, when a recording session hit that rare, perfect groove, when musicians found that elusive space where technique and feeling merged seamlessly, she would glance at the glove and smile, recognizing the same magic in a different form. The press would report on the Prince Michael summit with typical hyperbole, but for once, the reality had exceeded even the most sensationalized accounts. Both artists, notoriously private and protective of their public images, said little about the night in subsequent interviews, preferring to let the moment retain its mystery. When pressed, Michael would offer only, "Some gifts are meant to be shared once," then held close to the heart. Prince, characteristically enigmatic, would simply smile and change the subject when asked. This reticence only added to the legend, of course. Bootleg recordings of varying quality circulated among fans, coveted despite their imperfections. Grainy photos appeared in music magazines and later online, analyzed like artifact from some ancient civilization. Every few years, a new eyewitness account would emerge, adding fresh details to the collective memory. But those who were there that night in Minneapolis rarely needed such reminders. They carried the memory within them, a touchstone of possibility, a personal reminder that even in a world of carefully managed celebrity and commercial calculation, genuine moments of artistic communion remain possible. And whenever they heard Bad on the radio or glimpsed Michael's moonwalk or caught the opening riff of Purple Rain, they would feel again the electricity of that night, the pure joy of witnessing two kings sharing one throne, if only for a breathtaking, unforgettable moment in time.